Erewash Credit Union, trading as Derbyshire Community Bank. I'm Jackie Littlewood. I work for Altogether Money and I'm just here to support the technology this afternoon. So everybody that's joined us, and we have over 16, 17 members online, everybody is in listen-only mode. There will be options to ask questions throughout the AGM by typing them into your own devices. So in the top right-hand corner of your screen, there will be a little screen with a question mark in it. That's your question tab. If you click into that little box, it will give you a box to submit questions at any time. So it's the same little icon on a PC or a laptop or a mobile device. There are some handouts in the materials handout section, which is the next tab along, which is a piece of paper with a paper clip attached to it. There you'll find the documents that we're using for the AGM, and there will be some online voting. So I'll just launch a test poll so you can get used to the technology. So just bear with me a second. So how is the weather in your area today? So the poll results are instant. So this is just a test poll. If you've joined us, we have 16, 17 members online. I'll just bring Pat across. So we've got 62% of members that have voted. And like I say, the results are instant. As soon as we end the poll, the results will show. So this is just a test poll for anybody that's just joined us. Everybody that has joined us is in listen only mode. There is a question tab in the top right hand corner of your screen, which says questions. If you click into that box, you'll be able to submit questions to the AGM. And in the box next door to it is the materials. So there's handouts there that you can download those to your own devices. So we've got 71% of members that have voted. I'll end that and share the results. Let's say they are instant. And I'll hand over to Simon to formally open the AGM.
Thank you, Jackie, and thanks for your technical introduction. Hopefully everybody found the voting button, was able to make it work. So can I welcome everybody to this year's annual general meeting. We do also have a special general meeting for a specific matter to vote at the end of our session today. Can I welcome you all to the meeting, particularly to those who are coming to our AGM for the first time. And I'd particularly extend a warm welcome to the members of Chesterfield North East Derbyshire Credit Union, for whom this will be your first AGM. So thank you very much for that. I'm your chair. I chair the board of directors, and Phil Cole, our chief exec, will be speaking to us a little later on in his presentation. So you'll recognise his face in just a moment when that comes up. I should also start by saying, sending my apologies for the fact that the AGM had to be deferred this year. We had planned it to be at the end of March, but our auditors had some interesting technical issues in getting some of the bank confirmations that they needed, which meant they weren't able to sign off the accounts on their usual date. They have now received all of those bank confirmations and they have now signed the accounts, so that's all good. But that's the reason why we are holding our AGM in May rather than our normal end of March meeting. So with that, I would suggest we move on to the formal business of the meeting. I do have apologies from Tanya Noon, one of our board directors, who has a clash with another annual general meeting that she's taking part in. If anybody else has any apologies that they need to note, perhaps they could put them in the comments, the little question mark on the top right hand corner, and that way Jackie can capture those for the record. So our first formal item of business, at item 3 on our agenda, is the minutes of the 2025 annual general meeting. They were circulated in the pack that you should all have received this morning, and should be able to find that in the attachments if you haven't already seen that. Can I first of all ask if anybody has any questions that they want to raise on the accuracy and completeness of those minutes? Just pause for a moment. No, I can't see anything coming up there. So the first item that we need to vote on is to vote to approve the minutes of the AGM. So you can vote yes or no, or abstain if you didn't attend the meeting. We'll wait for a couple more people to vote. We're up to about 2/3 of you voted.
So the numbers will be a bit lower, Simon, because the 4 of us can't vote and Patricia's
Yep, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Right, anybody else still to vote? Just give another few seconds. It's ticking up, there's a couple more people still not voted. Okay, Jackie, I suggest we close the vote at that point.
Okay, thank you.
And I can confirm that the minutes have been approved by 7-0 with 6 abstentions, mainly for people I suspect who weren't able to attend. Thank you very much indeed. We can then move on to my own report as chair. I won't read, you'll be glad to know, I'm not planning to read the full narrative of my report, but I wanted to highlight just a few things that are important. So the first thing to highlight is the successful merger with Chesterfield and North East Derbyshire Credit Union took place just a few days before our year end. And I do want to extend the very warmest of welcomes to all of our members from Chesterfield and North East Derbyshire. And I particularly also want to thank the directors and the staff of Chesterfield for all their hard work in making the merger possible. I should also thank Phil and his team, Ravi in particular, for all the work that the Derby team did to make sure that the merger went without a hitch. I do also want to record our formal thanks to Malcolm Wright. He retired from our board at the end of December. Malcolm was one of the founders of Money Spider Credit Union down and around Burton-on-Trent back in 2004. He joined our board when they merged with us in 2020. And Malcolm has been an exemplary director, a very wise counsel to me and the rest of the board, and we will very much miss him. So if I turn to how the credit union has performed during the year, I think it's fair to say it's been challenging for us as a credit union, and it's been challenging for our members. There continues to be a challenging economic environment across the whole country, but obviously particularly here in Derbyshire. Cost of living continuing to go up, fuel prices in particular shooting up in the very recent past. And that means that demand for loans from the credit union continues to be strong. What I think is also important to note is that we do continue to decline many applications. We have a regulatory obligation to make sure that members are not being given loans that they cannot afford, so we have to look at affordability. We also have to make sure that there's no signs of what I might call abusive financial behaviour, and sometimes we do have to turn people down because we can see evidence of gambling. And while none of us are trying to be consciences of our members, if people want to gamble in principle, that's fine. But if we see the spend on gambling becoming significant relative to the person's outgoings, then we have an obligation to, again, decline their loan. We do point those members to people who might help them cut down on their gambling, and they're very welcome to reapply when their gambling has reduced. And we have seen a number of members during the year who've been through exactly that journey with us, which is, I think, is fantastic. When our members struggle sometimes to meet their loan repayments, we do try and be supportive. We do try and be sympathetic to recognise the financial stress that they may be under. But again, it's important to remember that we have a regulatory obligation to be supportive, but at the same time, all of the money that we lend to our members has come from other members. It's not from some big anonymous bank. It's from people just like you, just like us, who have deposited money with the credit union. And so it's very important that, if at all possible, we look to make sure that members do pay what they owe us. So if I look at the membership numbers, it was a good year, obviously partly because of the growth in members through the merger. More than 3,000 members joined us from Chesterfield, but overall we finished the end of the financial year with just over 7,800 members, and that number has continued to move up since then. So at the end of April, the most recent figures that we've got, we had 7,920 members. It's very interesting that now pretty much every single member engages us with us electronically, either via the app or via email or via our website. And the number of people that come and see us in person is tiny. If I look both at our Derby office and our Chesterfield office, we often see fewer than one member a week coming to see us in person. Now, of course, the online engagement is great from an efficiency point of view. It saves time for the members, it saves time for us and the staff, but it does mean that we lose some of that sense of community that is part of the, I think, the original credit union movement, and what was crucial to our own early success, both in Ilkeston for Derbyshire Community Bank and in the centre of Chesterfield for the Chesterfield membership. So we're still looking to find better ways to reconnect with our communities. We want people to know that we are a cooperative. We don't have outside shareholders. We just have us as members. We all get a vote. We're all owners in the organisation. And it's important that we all try and remember that when we are running our activities. We are keen to relaunch our volunteering with the idea that volunteers could perhaps take turns to provide a physical presence for the credit union at a local community centre or similar. And if anyone is interested in that, do please stick a note in the comments so we can follow up with you after the meeting. In terms of the deposits from members, our share balances, again, we saw a strong increase through the merger with Chesterfield, and we moved from having about £1.5 million of shareholder deposits at the end of September a year ago to a whisker under £2 million at the end of this financial year. However, I think it's important that we don't let ourselves be complacent. The overall saving activity by our members is continuing to decline. Some of that is because members need to draw on their savings to fund cost of living expenses, and we understand that. Some of our members are looking for the better interest rates that they may be able to earn elsewhere. And so, we need to continue to grow our membership, particularly of people who are willing and able to save with us. So I think it's very important that we think about those savers. We call them our angel savers. Together, deposited about £500,000, who are people who never come to us for a loan, but they believe passionately in the social purpose of what we're doing as a credit union, and they're very happy to put a few £1,000s in an account with us and just let it sit there. They're not looking for greatest returns. They could do that elsewhere. And if you know anybody in your community or in your friendship group or, I don't know, in anywhere where you socialise, do please think about mentioning the credit union to them, because they would be very warmly welcomed as members. As you'll see later on in our papers, we're not recommending a dividend this year, and I'll explain the reasons for that in just a moment or two. If I look at our financial performance for the year, we did see a drop-off in revenue this year. Last year we had £440,000 of revenue from savers, this year £420,000. And that was because we weren't lending as much money as we would like, particularly in the first half of the financial year that finished in September. I think I gave a little bit of a warning at this meeting a year ago that if we're not lending enough money, then we don't get interest from our borrowers, and therefore we can't generate the surplus that we need. So it was not totally surprising to see that we moved from a surplus before dividends and tax a year ago of £30,000 to a deficit this year of £20,000. Now, some of that was, as I say, because we weren't lending as much. Some of that was inevitably the impact of inflation and so on our own cost base. but some of that was also because we had to invest in doing our due diligence on the Chesterfield merger. You can't just walk in and merge with another credit union without doing your homework, and we had to spend some money on some outside help in doing that homework. What I think is also fair to say is that that deficit position has continued into the current year, so we're still not generating a surplus. We are hopeful that we will have a surplus by the end of the financial year, but we have concluded as a board, reluctantly, that we can't support the continued operation of a fully staffed office in the centre of Chesterfield. And therefore, we've taken the difficult decision to close that office, but we are hopeful that we will still be able to have some form of drop-in presence in Chesterfield, and we are exploring options for that. Members should also be reassured that our reserves position is very comfortable and very strong. At the end of the financial year, our reserves were £392,000, and we have a slightly quirky bit of accounting, which means that the net reserves that Chesterfield brought to us are now not technically added to our reserves, although the regulators do so. They're treated as something weirdly called negative goodwill. If anybody's particularly interested in the accounting reasons for that, I can give you some answers for that, but I probably won't take time in the meeting because it's quite fun if you're a boring accountant, but otherwise it's a little bit weird. So given the fact that we finished the financial year with a deficit, and we have made a deficit for the first 6 months of the new accounting year, the board believes it's not appropriate to pay a dividend this year. But because we are hopeful that we can see a surplus coming in the second half of the financial year, we may be able to look at a modest dividend this time next year. Just a quick update on our regulators. We are regulated both by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority. The latter is the one that has responsibility for all banks of any size and shape in the organisation. Both regulators do apply what I might call a light touch to the regulation of credit unions, but a number of credit unions have failed in the last 2 or 3 years, and therefore that light touch from the regulator is becoming increasingly firm. And that means, for example, that we as a board are being asked more questions by our regulator, Phil and his team are being asked more questions by our regulators, and we have to make sure that we are running ourselves in a prudent and sensible way. Having said all of that, all of the key ratios that the regulators set for a credit union of our size are green, so again, we're in a good space. When we get to the special meeting at the end of our session today, we are going to be asking you to approve a change to our common bond. For all credit unions, the common bond is the connection that basically joins all of the members and all of the potential members of the credit union. We in Derbyshire Community Bank are a geographical credit union, so our common bond is based in the county of Derby, the city of Derby. You can live here, you can work here, either of those is fine. We've been working increasingly with the Mayor for the East Midlands, who was elected for the first time last year, and they are responsible for both Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. And when we engage with them in ways that they might work with us and we might work with them, they're very focused on their mandate is both counties, and you guys only do Derbyshire. So we've been looking at that as a board, and we will be recommending a little later on in the meeting that we extend our geographical reach. So we're no longer just Derbyshire, but we want to add all of the county of Nottinghamshire, including the city of Nottingham, and we also want to add anybody else that has a DE postcode. That effectively adds in the eastern half of Staffordshire and Castle Donington. So we think that that's going to be a good thing to do. And finally, before I hand over to Phil, I do want to thank all of our supporters and all of our members for their help and contribution during the last year. That, I think, is all that I wanted to say, so I'll pass the baton over to Phil, if I may.
Okay. I think I should be coming on. There we go. Do you want to turn your mic off? Okay, we're going to get some feedback.
We'll just sort
Okay, is that back under control? Let me turn this one off there.
Oops,
Okay, I
there we
think
go.
that's better, I think, isn't it? Right, okay. Probably just a couple of things really to add from what Simon has said. I put a fuller report in the AGM pack. I think firstly, I'd say a thank you very much to our members for a couple of things. One is for saving regularly. That's been really important for us, part of the ethos for credit union, make sure that people are putting money aside, building their financial resilience. And we're very conscious that people really struggle with saving, and something that we build into our loan. So for all of the Chesterfield members that have joined us, maybe a bit of a new experience for them, but every time they have a loan, part of the loan agreement is that at least £3 a week or £12 a month goes into their savings. So as well as repaying their loan, they're also building their savings, which hopefully may not need to borrow in the future, but at least they're building up some good habits back to managing money. We're also very conscious that over the next 6-12 months, life's going to get tougher with everything that's going on in the world. So cost of living will persist as being an issue. So as much as we are a savings and loans business, and we do loans, savings is also a really key important part of our ethos, and that's the thing that makes us work. We need to have the savers so that we can lend back out into our community. And as Simon said, we're very grateful to those who we call our angel savers, who have deposited money with us that enables us to lend back into community. So just looking to the future a little bit, one thing that we've learned from being involved up in Chesterfield, just the network of organisations that are up there. We're based down in Derby, so we know around here quite well, but not so familiar with Chesterfield. So it's been really great to meet some of the organisations and the people that run the different organisations there, and the level of support that they have for us and what we do. And we really want to continue to do that. In terms of sort of direction of travel for us, again, as Simon said, be able to make sure that we can cover everything within the East Midlands and the combined authority region would seem to be quite an important step for us. We're aware that one of the problems that people have is just transport, just getting around, and that's an issue that the councils are and the regional mayor is trying to address, looking at other parts of the country that have done that really well, like Manchester. And so we can play our part with that. So we launched a bus saver scheme beginning of this year. Hopefully we'll be able to develop that a bit further with support of the MCA. And be able to spread that across more people. A couple of things that we've been working on. One is direct debit, so something that we really want to try and get in place. So we're going to continue to try and make that one happen. Just make it a lot easier for some people to be able to save with us and to be able to repay their loans. A salary saver, really important way for helping people save. A lot of the bigger credit unions around the country and around the world, it's people are saving as part of their salary, deducted at source, really simple. You don't really miss it, and we do that. We just need to roll that out to more organisations and get more people involved with that. We know it works really, really well, and for those that, particularly for those that struggle to save, it means that they can build up their savings, so they have some financial resilience and stability, and be able to make better financial choices. Loans continue to be a key part of what we do. It's a bit disappointing that our loan lending last in this previous financial year was a bit lower than we expected. We just have to be really careful about how much we lend and make sure we're not going to make anything worse, improve people's lives, not give them a burden. Continue to try to support our members with that. I think that's about everything from me. Just a big thank you to everybody. Really grateful also for those who leave us 5-star reviews on Google. It's really pleasing to not just see the 5 stars, but also read some of the stories that people tell us about how we've been able to help them. They really value and appreciate what we do. Something that we'll be doing over the next couple of months is sending out our next member survey, just to get a good grasp of where people are at, what people need, how we're doing, what we can do to improve things. So look out for that coming up soon. That's everything from me. Can I pass on to Pat?
So can we introduce, please, Pat Butler, our Treasurer, to give a summary of anything that she wants to cover in her report. Pat, over to you. You'll need to put your microphone on.
Yes, I put my microphone on. I didn't know whether Jackie was doing it or I had to do it. Thank you. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Phil. You covered mostly what's in my report. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, really. As you both said, our income is down this year, which, you know, has concluded that we should not recommend a dividend this year. Hopefully, we'll see a better result this coming year and be able to reinstate dividends for next year. On a good side, our net charge for bad and doubtful debts was down by £10,000 last year, still higher than we would like, but it's moving in the right direction. So we're encouraged by that what we're lending out, we're getting more back than we used to do, which is really encouraging for everybody. And hopefully that we can continue to, you know, work with people that fall into arrears. Phil and his team will be working hard to continue to do that and reduce bad debt in the coming year. So each year we approve a business plan in the board and budget for the new financial year and look at performance against the budget. And the plan is reviewed and monitored at monthly board meetings. The budget for this year is a deficit budget, but we expect the second half of the year to be broadly break even. The credit union remains in a strong position, maintaining a liquidity of £912,000, which is 39% of our liabilities and well ahead of what our regulators require. And also our capital to asset ratio requirement of only 3% is exceeded at 19%, so well in the guidelines there. So in light of the deficit highlighted in my report, I endorse the recommendation of the board that a dividend is not paid this year. Thank you. That's it from me. Has anybody got any questions? Okay.
Okay, so that proves a good move into the audited accounts, which are included in detail. The full financial statements are included in the pack of materials. And before we move to the question of the dividend, we should, I think, just ask whether there are any questions on the accounts. I know there's a lot of detailed numbers in there, but if anybody wants a question answered, please stick it in the question box now. Okay, let's just see if there's any evidence of anybody typing away merrily. No, I think we're probably good. Okay, so for good order, although clearly we can't pay a dividend anyway, we would ask for members' support for our decision to not pay a dividend. So can we put that vote up, please, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm just checking whether there was actually one put up. Got the re-election. I don't think there was a poll added. Do you want me to add one quickly?
You might not have a vote for it. We don't technically need a vote, so it may be that we decided that wasn't needed. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so let's crack on. The next item is the reappointment of our auditors. Many of you will know that our auditors, Alexander Sloan, have been the auditors of the Derbyshire Community Bank for a few years. They were taken over during the year by a larger firm of accountants, TC Group, and therefore they're now trading as TC Group. Therefore, we would like to ask you to reappoint TC Group as our external auditors until the end of the next AGM. As the board, we find them, they know what they're doing, they give us good answers to our tricky questions, so we're very happy to recommend their reappointment. So can we please vote, Jackie?
Yeah, the post, it's launched.
We'll give a few more seconds for people to vote. Right, the votes are ticking in. We're up to 93% of people have voted. Can we get that last percentage up? All right, I think the numbers aren't changing now, so can we confirm that vote, please, Jackie?
Can.
So I'm happy to confirm that that's approved by 11 votes to 0 with 2 abstentions. Thank you very much indeed. We now have to vote on various matters relating to the board. We have 2 of our current directors who are required to step down but are eligible for re-election, myself and Pat. So we have both of those up for approval. And we also are running probably 2 directors below where the board would like to be. So we're asking for your formal approval to give the existing board the ability to co-opt 2 new directors during the course of the year, as to when we find people who we think are going to add to the governance of the credit union. So can we put up the first vote, please, Jackie?
Yeah, the first one's for Simon, for yourself.
So that's for me. Okay, that's very exciting. So if you're in favour of me remaining on the board, please vote. Thank you. We're up to 93% again.
I think that's the number we've been hitting, isn't it?
Well, we'll just give a couple more seconds for that to tick through. Okay, the votes aren't changing, so can we make that go firm, please, Jackie? So that's a vote, 12 in favour, 0 against and 1 abstention. Thank you very much for that. Can we then move on to the vote for Pat, please? So again, please vote in favour if you would.
So the numbers will be lower because Pat can't vote.
Yeah, we'll just give a few more seconds, I think. We're up to 86%. Can we get the last couple of people to vote? Right, I think again the numbers have stabilised, so let's go firm at that point, please, Jackie. So I'm happy to confirm that Pat has been re-elected by 12 votes to 0 with 1 abstention. Thank you very much. And then can we put the co-option vote to the members, please, Jackie? So this is to give the board the authority to appoint, and although it says 1, we'd actually like authority, it should be 2 as per the agenda. Thank you. I do, just while we're waiting for that to tick through, I will just pick up on a question that's been asked in the question thread, which is, can we post the contact details for anyone interested in joining the board? What I will do, rather than you having to copy it from here, is I will make sure that everybody who has attended the meeting or had registered to attend the meeting will have the right contact details. But if anybody's got a pen and paper to hand, then if you email chair@dcbank, or one word, .org.uk, you will get to me and I can pick up with anybody that's interested in the coming days. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're about done on the vote. So can we go firm with that, please, Jackie? So that's approved by 8 votes to 0. Thank you very much indeed. Right, that brings us to any other business. Is there any other business that anybody wants to raise? Looking at Phil to see if he's got anything he wants to say. He's shaking his head. Okay, I think we are good. So what we will do at that point, please don't go away, is we will formally end the annual general meeting, and we will move straight on to the special general meeting, which is exactly the same, but it's a legally different process, which is where we are asking you to approve the change in the rules of our credit union to redefine the common bond of the credit union. And before the resolution, there was one question that came up earlier from a member about Clockwise Credit Union. Clockwise are another credit union that overlap with part of our common bond. And the answer is twofold. Firstly, we do already work closely with Clockwise on a number of different things. One of the lovely things about the credit union movement, we're all cooperative, so we don't compete in quite the same way that other financial institutions do. And Clockwise have been very helpful in sharing some of their best practice and so on with us, and we value that immensely. So we have a very warm relationship with them. Although their common bond does extend into Nottingham, they've told us that at the moment they're focusing their efforts, if you like, south of our border, and therefore they're not particularly pushing any initiatives in Nottinghamshire at the moment. That may well change in the future. But the answer is, if you are in a part of the country that is served by more than one credit union, you can join either or both. Clearly none, but we would all say we'd like you to join at least one of us. If I talk to some of our fellow credit unions in Greater Manchester, there are probably a dozen or more credit unions serving the extended Greater Manchester area, and probably at least half of those have significantly overlapping common bonds. So while clearly we'd always prefer people would choose us, if people want to choose Clockwise, then we're not going to complain. We're not going to get cross about that. They know what we're doing. They know we're extending our common bond, and they've got no problems with that at all. So what we are summarising on the slide here is that we think the benefits of a large common bond are the overlap, the full mapping against the East Midlands Combined Authority, which I think is great. That in turn improves our own accessibility to funding and projects, and that might be funding from government or regional government, but it might also be funding from business communities and so on. On the western side of our boundaries, stepping into parts of East Staffordshire, there are some parts of East Staffordshire today that aren't eligible to join any credit union, so it's nice that we're giving them coverage by the credit union movement. Castle Donington, again, legally in Leicestershire, but with a DE postcode. We think it makes sense to cover all of the DE postcode. It's nice and simple to explain. From a regulatory point of view, the regulators say the common bond cannot be more than 3 million population, and our best estimate of the population within our new common bond area is 2.7 million, so within the threshold that government has set for us. So I think we see this as being a significant step forward for our credit union. It's also a stepping stone. Who knows how this is going to pan out, but the government announced earlier this year that they are, in the fullness of time, going to introduce new regulation which will allow credit unions to become significantly larger. We've no idea how we're going to respond to that, because we don't know quite when that law is going to pass, but I think there is a clear message from both government and regulators that they would like credit unions generally to be larger rather than smaller. Are there any questions on the proposed change in common bond? I've been keeping an eye on the little Q&A box and I haven't seen anything else pop up. Okay, so can we then please move to the vote, Jackie, which is to change our rules so that we now have, and that's set out in detail on the paper, to extend our common bond as presented. Please vote. Lots of votes ticking through. Anybody else like to cast their vote? Speak now. Right, so I haven't seen any change in numbers in the last few seconds. So Jackie, can we end that poll, please? And thank you very much. That's approved by 12 votes to 0 with 1 abstention. Thank you all very much indeed for your attendance today. Thank you very much for your engagement with the meeting. I will now declare the meeting closed. And obviously, you know where we are if you want to come and talk to us. So thanks very much, everybody. We'll close the meeting there. Thank you very much, Jackie, for your help.
Thank you. Have a nice afternoon, everybody.